Hello, and welcome to Sell It Sista. I'm Carri Owens.
I'm Megan Bengtson.
Molly Amick.
And our special guest today is Owen Dashner.
And if you don't know Owen, you are in the presence of real estate investor royalty.
Royalty.
Yeah, so I feel like I don't have to mention, we talk about this almost every episode, that cash is so important to this market, and nobody knows better than Owen. But it's so important, like, how do you get your hands on it, how to fund your projects, investments, purchases. This market is so fast, and I think Owen has really tapped into a really big market with cash, and we want to talk to him today. He's got his fingers in lots of stuff, lots of fun stuff in Omaha with real estate. You know how much I love real estate. We all love real estate, but Owen really loves real estate. So, podcasters, welcome, Owen Dashner. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here in person. This is exciting.
I know.
Yeah, so this is a little different than REIA Radio. Like we do video, so good thing you look cute.
I know. Well, I don't know. I've been saying for a while I have a good face for radio, so this will.
Pulling it off, though.
Our fearless editor here has his work cut out for him.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So I want to talk to you about the podcast, but mostly I want to start with how you got started investing. Now, you always talk about on the podcast like you've had 1,000,001 jobs, but you seem to have found your niche.
Yeah, it's something I started in 2005 as kind of a side hustle. I studied and read everything I could get my hands on, like a lot of newer investors do. I read every book. They didn't have bigger pockets back then, so I kind of had to do my own searching around. But
our second favorite podcast.
Yeah. And I ended up taking the leap and buying a flip that was a terrible buy. Made a lot of mistakes. Had a partnership that we put nothing in writing. Bought the wrong house on a bad street, no garage, middle of winters when we were going to sell it. So it was not a good purchase. But one of my friends who was helping me work on it, and by the way, I'm a terrible contractor, and I was trying to do a lot of the work myself too.
Right.
So pretty much everything, and I'm like, oh, I'm smart. I've been studying for 2 years. I got this figured out. And then I'm like, I did everything that it says not to do. So anyway, I'm knee deep into this big rehab, and I have one of my friends helping me out with this remodel, right? And he's good. He knows what he's doing. And he tells me about this other house that happens to be a lakefront property in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And I ended up buying that for $95,000. And by the way, my first flip that I was already in the middle of, I was on month number 9 when this other deal got brought to me, and I'm like, I didn't know how to buy it. You know, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I called a small town, little local bank that from where my wife is from, Oakland, Iowa, and talked to the president, and he's like, yeah, we'll do the loan. And I'm like, okay.
We like small town Iowa.
Yeah, so I had it under contract for 95, and they wanted to get an appraisal on it, and it appraised for 165 as is.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I didn't, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this. I was all panicky. And so I talked the seller into basically waiting 6 months for me to close on.
Wow.
Yeah, really smart.
Good negotiating
skills. By the way, he was 97 years old.
Oh, okay.
So,
no joke.
Yeah. And if he would have died, you would have been SOL.
Yeah, pretty much. So long story longer, I ended up closing on that. And I was like, this appraised for so much. Why don't I just see what somebody will give it to me as is, rather than spend another year of my life doing a terrible rehab. And so I pulled the cat pee carpets out of there, and there was 1,000 flies. I don't know why, but they're all dead, and the cat pee. And I don't know if that was related, so I pulled the carpet out, set it outside to air out, and then I listed it in the paper. This is how long ago this was, 2005. In the Daily Nonpareil in Council Bluffs, and I was like, fixer-upper, lakefront property for sale for $139,900. Okay? Appraised value $165,000. Nice. My phone just lit up.
Okay.
Wow.
It may have been one of those bag phones that was that long ago, but whatever it was ringing a lot. And anyway, I ended up, first people I showed it to ended up offering me $135,000 for it.
Wow.
And so I sold it a month on the day that my first mortgage payment was due.
Wow.
And I was like, I am such a moron. Like, I was super pumped and excited, but I was like, what was I doing with this other house?
Right.
And then, they're not always like this, as I soon learned. But wrapped up the other one, made like $2 an hour on it for all the work I put in, then made $40 over here, before taxes and all that.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of learning lessons the first couple of years. But I knew I wanted to buy some rental properties, and I didn't have any money. So I thought, I'll flip a couple houses, make some money, put that money into rentals, rinse and repeat.
Right.
Were you still working a full-time job?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I was working at ConAgra Foods in HR. So I had a suit, like literally a suit and tie every day. And I would, ditch that and put on my grubby clothes with a bag, gym bag, and go over and work about 20 hours a week. So, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't have children at the time, so that made things a little bit easier. But that was quite the education.
Yes.
So, but you got the taste of it.
Yeah.
I had the bug after that, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, and once you get that bug, if you even have a little bit of a love of real estate and you get that bug, like, I feel like it's a...
Right. It's like an addiction. What's next? I got to find the deal.
You're just a pebble rolling downhill.
What's funny, too, is you can always tell when somebody has it. Like, if you meet a newer real estate investor or whatever, you can just look them in the eye. It's almost like a heroin addict. Oh, yeah. It's got you
my next
bad.
one.
Yeah, and for those people, it's not even really about the money because...
No, it's about the money.
Well, you love the money.
Right.
And it's great to be able to make your income in that way. But man, when you're just able to do deal after deal, I mean, we say it all the time. Like, I mean, me, like I could have the Jersey Turnpike going through something and I will find something about that property that I love. And I could still sell it to somebody because of what I found that I love about it. So you found out that you love the investing, you love real estate, you've got the bug now. So how'd you get hooked up with the REIA Radio podcast?
Oh, yeah, that's...
Or did that not come till later?
Yeah, that was a lot later.
Okay, so you've got Red Ladder Properties.
Red Ladder Property Solutions. So that so I did kind of the investing on the side thing for what? Oh, probably 12 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
did you do
13 years.
a lot of that to like for finances through like just that small town bank? Is that kind of where a lot of just funds came from with that?
Yeah, I hooked up with, I'm from a small town in Iowa too, Malvern, Iowa, and the bank there, they were willing to work with me, and I did a bunch of deals with them. They kind of grew with me until I hit basically their legal lending limit, and then I kind of had to look for other banks, so I got referred to others.
Sit back and think, like, good thing you got started in 05? And maybe not like 08, 09, where maybe lending restrictions got a little bit tougher?
Yeah, well, it was tough too.
Was it
because
still tough?
yeah, I was trying to like get a line of credit so I could do more than one flip at a time,
Right.
and then like that wasn't happening.
Right.
It was real estate was like anathema to banks at the time. So
Right.
I was trying to figure out how to just make it all work. And I had a W-2. It made pretty good income at
Right.
it, so that helped when I was getting regular loans. But then I found kind of like commercial loans and started doing more deals. But to answer your question, in 2018, I left my corporate gig to do real estate investing full time. And part of the like catalyst to that was my business partner in that business, Brandon Tauber. He was in the same boat. Like he was burned out in a like corporate gig too. Well, his was more like he did trading for the Chicago Board of Trade and was like completely burned out on that. It's like dog years.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we just kind of talked each other into, making the jump together, and we kind of each divvied up who was going to do what with getting the business started, and we kind of hit the ground running. I already had a website up. I did kind of a proof of concept with doing pay-per-click advertising. So I did, maybe I could give an overview of that real
Sure,
quick.
absolutely.
So pay-per-click is basically like if your garage door's broken, and you're like, garage door repair Omaha. You type that in, you're probably going to have 3 ads at the top, right?
Right.
And then underneath that, you'll probably have some local advertisements, but they're not paid for, right?
Okay.
So they're naturally ranking that high because people have been using them or clicking on them or the reviews are good. Pay-per-click is like you're cheating because you can buy your way to the top.
Yes.
So
okay.
if you pay enough money, you can rank, We Buy Houses Omaha, Sell My House Fast in Omaha, a lot of motivated sellers that are looking for people to buy their house, Cash for My House, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can basically, it's like alphabet soup. You organize all those terms and you can buy your way to the top in most of those if you have the right budget. So I kind of demoed that a little bit while I was still working my job, and it was really stressful because I did like 20 deals in 2017 while I was working full time, and I was like, you know what, I'm good. Like I did this I made twice as much money as I did at my corporate job by flipping houses while I was still working.
Wow.
Good for you.
So that gave me enough, cojones
Cushion.
to,
Yeah.
That and Brandon was kind of a motivator too because he was doing the same thing. So.
Right.
I didn't realize you stayed in your corporate job
That long.
I know.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's just I don't know, with the amount of properties that you own, that's just that's surprising.
I fell into the trap of because early on I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I got really excited. I read Cash Flow Quadrant. So you want your income to exceed your expenses, and then you're free, and you can quit your job or do whatever you want, right? So I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. And then I had a daughter, got married, had a daughter, had another daughter, and it's like, my expenses rose with my income.
Yep.
Right.
And it's like, you're kind of trying to swim and get to the surface, but you don't really know where the surface is.
Right.
Well,
That was kind of what I went through.
It's always like, okay, well, this will be enough.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
then all of a sudden
Yeah.
that changed. Now this needs to be
Yep.
enough.
Now we need
that's
new houses. Now we need this.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's
Kids need
yeah.
school.
I like to make the analogy bacon and eggs. Like, the chicken's involved, but the pig is committed. So I was the chicken for a long number of years.
That's hilarious.
And finally decided to commit to it and just believe in what I was doing. So that's a long answer to your story or your question, but that's how Red Ladder started.
Well, I think that's also pretty impressive. You got a pretty good support staff for your wife to be like, yep, you're doing this.
Yeah.
I think she just got tired of me complaining about
Well,
my job.
then there's
for a
that
long
too. I
time.
mean, you just break her down as well. So, I mean, that process works too. So,
Well, it's
No.
hard to go to work 40 hours and then have, all the other things on top of it.
Yeah.
And you're like, where is my family time? Where's the what are we doing it for?
yeah.
Yeah.
I look back at that too, and I was fortunate enough to work from home. So I worked remotely before that was like the cool thing.
Okay,
The COVID thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been doing that for
Okay.
quite a while.
Oh, wow,
I worked for
okay.
IBM, and then Rico acquired a division of IBM, and I continued working for them for about 10 years. So, I'm working from home, and I did a good job at what I was supposed to do. So I
Gotcha.
got a lot of work done in a very short amount of time, so
Right.
that way I could handle, I could run out for an hour,
Right.
or as long as I had my phone with me, it didn't matter.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that helped a lot, having some flexibility with location, so I could go out and handle stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
But yeah,
So Red Ladder is the name of your investment company.
that is the transactional real estate business that I have. Yeah, so it's the buying and selling.
Okay.
Okay.
And I kind of, so do you call that a wholesaling company?
One distinction I'll make about that is we always close on everything that we get under contract. So
Okay.
we never assign deals, although we do sometimes close on them and then sell them to other investors after the fact.
Gotcha.
So we feel it's cleaner that way and
Yep.
less drama. So, but generally we're either going to buy a property and we're going to A, sell it to another investor, B, wholesale it, which basically buy it, clean it out, clean it up, put it on the MLS, get what we get out of it, whether it's an investor or a first-time home buyer or second-time home buyer. Or we're going to rehab it and keep it as a rental. So those are kind of the three main dispositions that we use.
And I love that. It's been a great market for that business
Yeah,
model.
it makes everybody look pretty smart.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've seen great success with Red Ladder Property Solutions. And do you see that business model evolving, changing? I know there's been some new legislation this session that might change that maybe a little for you.
So LB 892.
892,
Yeah, so outlawing basically unlicensed wholesalers from transacting, right?
But maybe you're not quite a wholesale model.
I'm not. We're
Yeah.
not. So it'll, in fact, probably help us, if anything.
Yeah.
And it's going to make it a little more difficult, I think, for a lot of people that are just getting started in the business. And it's tough, too, because, we've had a historic run-up the last, several years. I mean, I don't even remember when the last time we had a flat market. Was it 2014? I don't even know.
Probably
Yeah.
14, 15.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's just been ticking up ever since then.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think to answer your question, will anything change for us? I don't really think so. We still do our marketing. We still buy, a fair amount of deals. We usually do, depending on the year, between 3 or 4 houses a month is what we buy.
Okay.
Nice. So
Yeah.
then out of the, so you have another company called Liquid Lending. So now, did that evolve out of the red property?
So Liquid Lending Solutions was formed in September of 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2020. So a year and a half ago, basically. And originally, Brandon and I, my Red Ladder partner, we had talked about, like, when we have some excess cash, like, what should we do with this? Let's do hard money lending. And we kind of approached a couple of banks and didn't get the answers that we really wanted. We're like, all right, well, let's shelve that for now. We wanted to get a line of credit, basically borrow that, lend it out to investors and make arbitrage, right?
Okay.
So banks were like, yeah, we kind of need some collateral for that.
Okay.
So we were like, all right, we're not ready or whatever for that. So we just kind of did our thing. So one day, I'm going to grab lunch and bring it to my buddy Colin Schwartz's office. I don't know if you guys know Colin. He's a pretty active investor in town here. And he was having lunch with another guy named Peter Anaradian, who we actually all bought a deal together. We bought a 24-unit apartment building in Papillion. So I'm like, yeah, I'll grab lunch. So I bring in lunch. And I'm like, what are you guys meeting about? And he's like, well, we're talking about hard money. And I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
And so we all sat down, talked about it, and we decided there's 5 of us total that are partners. So I called Brandon, and then Colin, got his bro involved who has severe FOMO, which is Chris Pomerleau. Hi, Chris. And so we all formed it together, and basically the impetus of that was we have this meetup group that Colin runs every month, and it's the Omaha Real Estate Meetup. They have a Facebook page that's got, 4,000 members, and usually about 100 to 120 participants or attendees, guest speaker, all that. And then Ted Kaasch has the same thing with Omaha REIA. It's very similar.
Okay.
So we kind of have this group that we've gotten to know, and we know a ton of investors, and they all do deals. We know who the good operators are, and we're like, why don't we just fund deals for people and make, and we saw an opportunity because there's not a whole lot of hard money business in Omaha.
No,
right?
there's not.
There's not.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's not much at all. So we thought we saw kind of a mousetrap
Yeah.
with that idea. So we're all like, let's start it. And we each kicked in $250,000. So we had $1 million to start with.
Okay.
And that was gone like that.
Yeah.
Like a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna
Well, when
say.
you're connected to that many other investors, things
Right.
like, and they know that that's options out there, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it was like-
that's not enough at all.
Yeah, everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh, sweet. And
You
I
got
got a
$1
deal, I got a deal, I got a
Yeah.
deal. And we're like, whoa, hang on. We're out.
Exactly. You're like, you're great.
You're
I
like,
don't
what?
have much
Yeah.
of them.
I
Yeah.
feel like there's always somebody
Yeah.
looking for hard money. Not even just investors, but sometimes primary people. Like we want to do this episode about cash is king or cash is queen, as we like to say. But, cash is king for primary people, for investors, because the market is so fast, right?
Well, it's not, it's also some people like situations that where you don't fit into a bank's perfect box.
Right.
They won't approve you. I mean, I had a listing. I don't even know how many, like a couple years ago, something like that, and it was either student loans or medical debt loans, something like that. I mean, still very well qualified people, but they didn't fit in the perfect box. And so they were able to find someone who would do a hard money loan, and they needed just a short period of time to be able to kind of get these things set in place, but that's the house that they wanted. And so they figured it out, and I'm assuming eventually they probably got something more permanent set in place, but it was literally that little kind of bridge Band-Aid that they needed to get from point A to point B.
And we're back. So talk to me a little bit about just kind of the terms of the liquid lending. So you told a funny story. Well, I thought it was funny, but maybe I was drinking on your on your podcast about how.
If you think I'm funny, you probably would.
Exactly.
Well, sometimes I listen late at night. How Red Ladder, you had bid on a property. And you got beat out, and then sure enough, the next day the application came in through liquid lending, and so you ended up getting the deal. And
Hey, you still made money on it.
well, I think it's funny, one, because Omaha is like so small, but I'm like, man, that is just like
I just had lunch with the borrower yesterday too, which is
Oh,
funny.
ironic.
We just talked about that deal. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like you're killing it, right?
it's gone well.
There you go.
We were able to raise more money, mostly from friends and family. We got a line of credit, so we're able to, loan out on that and then make kind of a spread on it. So it's been good. As far as terms go, we're trying to basically position ourselves as a no hassle, kind of hit the easy button type of a business where if you have a short closing window, we can turn it around.
Okay.
If you have a deal that you're trying to get approved and you just don't have time for a bank to appraise it or
Right.
go jump through all the hoops, right? Then we might be a good solution. If somebody has a line of credit that they're able to access and buy it that way, absolutely do
Go
that.
with-
Yeah.
Right.
But I think the stigma with hard money a lot of times is like, oh, it's so expensive, and like, don't do that. And
Well, it
I
is
don't want,
expensive.
It
I don't
is.
want my legs broken.
Of
I don't
course.
want you coming
Yeah.
at me with a bat something.
yeah, we have Rocco and Knuckles on retainer.
There you go. That's
Um,
scary to me.
I mean, it is expensive,
It is
right?
expensive,
but
yeah.
Right.
it's convenient.
Right.
And again, like Megan said, it's serving a need. It might be short term. It might be to beat an appraisal. It might be because you have to beat somebody out because of the
Yeah.
pace of the market. But I mean, how long are most of these loans? Are most of these people refinancing within 6 months?
Yeah,
or-
most of ours are 6-month terms.
Okay.
And our main customers are typically flippers, or they're going to be BRRRR investors. So they're going to buy rent, refinance, repeat.
Okay.
That's somewhere around there.
Oh, that's the burr.
Yeah.
Burr.
Okay.
Bye.
So-
I knew it actually
Okay.
meant something.
Buy,
So-
rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're getting
Okay.
the same money back basically in rinse and repeat. So that's most of I think our average loan length is probably 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Ish.
Do people have to make payments?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay.
So ours are basically, we'll fund up to 100% of the purchase price.
Okay.
And we don't have any points unless it's a weird deal and it's like super last minute or there's some kind of something that's an outlier.
Okay.
So generally it's going to be 18% interest. If you factor it
Yeah.
over the entire year.
Right.
ACH payments that we pull every month on the first.
Okay.
I always say, to keep it simple, every $100,000 you borrow is $1,500 a month.
Okay.
So we have a 1 month minimum finance charge. So if you bought something, and then paid it off 2 weeks later, we'd still charge a month.
Okay.
And then
Makes
when
sense.
it pays back, basically the title company will call us just like they would a bank and say, can I get your payoff instructions?
Gotcha.
And we get it and then
Done.
deploy the money again and rinse and repeat.
Perfect.
We've had some really good borrowers though. We've got some really good operators that we're dealing with in Omaha too. So it's been pretty cool.
So
we branched out into Des Moines also. So that's been kind of fun learning that market as well.
So as a new investor into liquid lending, borrower, whatever you want to call it, what are your parameters? I mean, I'm assuming kind of with your steady people that constantly come back, I mean, you kind of already know their history, stuff like that, so maybe it's a little bit quicker to give an approval or a yes, but, is there a lot of stringent things on your back end to approve someone to say, I will give money to you?
That's the perfect question actually. We underwrite the deal like we're the ones buying it.
Okay.
And so if we would do it based on our background in flipping houses and underwriting deals, then we'll secondarily look at the experience level of the borrower and say, do they know what they're doing? Do they know what a hammer is? Do they know what after repair value is?
So
All that.
Megan's a slam dunk.
Yeah. And so we basically underwrite the deal first, the borrower second. We don't pull credit and,
Right.
those kind of things, but we take a pretty close look at the asset itself and the scope of work involved. So,
Are you going out and looking at every
No,
property?
sometimes, but most of the
Okay.
time we pull comps just like you would,
Okay.
So we have a realtor that I've been working with a long time. She helps us out with comps and so we basically underwrite the deal, and if it pencils out, then we'll fund it. And if the reason why I think we're different than a lot of hard money businesses is we're all investors, all of us, the owners. So if something went sideways and we did have to, take title,
Yeah.
then we could do something with
Right.
it.
Right.
Correct.
We can go out
You've
and
already
do the
qualified the property.
Yeah,
that
we'll do the project ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
What's your turnaround time on? I saw you had a quick little application on your website. What's your turnaround time for approval?
It depends on. Okay, I would say for sure within 24 hours.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, probably. I mean, to me, I would tell somebody as a new investor, go talk to liquid lending people, prior to you getting a deal.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh definitely.
You can
yeah.
get it done faster than title can process things.
Exactly.
Yeah. We
Title
actually.
is I usually need about 7 days.
Yeah.
I think we've had either 2 or 3. I think we've funded right around 160 loans
Wow.
since we've been doing this.
In 18 months.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
I think we had 3 deals that we funded in one day.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
I don't recommend that
Right, I'm
for
sure.
anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they already had title work started.
Okay.
Right? So it was just they were, something fell apart with their lending, so we kind of stepped
So
in.
kind
Wow.
of need to
Maybe
kinda
I'm-
swoop up and save the day a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow,
Now-
maybe I'm in the wrong business.
There you go. You just need $1 million.
You know what I love about it though? Being on, you heard my story about the 9-month, first rehab, right? The cool thing about doing the lending business is like the money goes out just like it does when you buy something, but then you just sit back and you know what I mean? We got to deal with things, but it's just like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I don't have to worry about the repair.
Yeah, I got
worry
paid.
about this.
Didn't have to lift anything.
Yeah,
or
exactly. You didn't
yell
tear
at
down a
contractors.
wall. You didn't
Yeah.
have to get a second dumpster.
So it's been fun. Yeah, exactly. It's been fun.
Okay, we're going to talk more about this in part 2 of Cash is King. So if you are not tuning into the next episode, follow us on Instagram, sellitsista.com, our YouTube channel, anywhere you listen, and check out Owen's REIA Radio podcast. And as always,
Today's whatever you're going to make it, and we're going to make it a great day. Wow, caught me off guard.
tune back in for part 2.
There you go.